Coming up on Theater Talk.
I always say in your letter, your letter bothered me, the sign for bother, but she has to say disturb.
And I asked her, because she sometimes mouths, and she'll go, your letter bothered me. And I'm like, could you please say disturbed when you sign it? Because I'm
She's
following
right.
you.
Camryn's absolutely right.
And it's impossible.
Because I have to try to keep my mouth shut so that I don't want to throw her off.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
Stiefel. Moritz. I spent the entire day thinking about your note. Truly, it touched me, it did, that you'd think of me as a friend. Of course, I was saddened to hear that your exams came off rather less well than you'd hoped, and that you will not be promoted come fall. And yet I must say, straight away, that fleeing to America is hardly the solution. And even if it were, I cannot provide the money you request.
From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins, and
I'm Jesse Green, not Michael Riedel.
Michael Riedel is on the road, and I'm so happy you're here, Jesse, particularly because we're going to talk about a production today which you, as the critic of New York Magazine, raved about.
I did.
Spring Awakening, a remarkable musical that has just opened on Broadway, and we're very pleased to be joined by Spring Awakening's director, Michael Arden. It's a revival, but you conceived this production. And two of its stars, Emmy Award-winning Camryn Manheim and Academy Award winner Marlee Matlin. And we also want to welcome Marlee's interpreter, Jack Jason. So, Jesse.
Let's start at the beginning. I'm sure you've told this before, but Michael, what are the origins of this revival? It was a show that was done not so long ago on Broadway for the first time.
Right. Well, I was lucky enough to actually see this show, this play, in previews at the Atlantic, something like 10 years ago. And I immediately fell in love with it. I had been a fan of Duncan, Sheik, and Stephen Sater's work on their albums prior to that, and so I was really excited to see them approach this play. And coincidentally, I had done a few plays as an actor with Deaf West Theater, which is an incredible company based in Los Angeles, founded by Ed Waterstreet. I did their production of Big River on Broadway at the Roundabout. And cut to 10 years later, I was living in LA. I had just started a theater company in Los Angeles, and the artistic director, DJ Kurz of Deaf West, approached me and said, is there anything you would like to direct for us, given my history with the company? And the idea actually came from my fiance, Andy Mientes. He said, why don't we do Spring Awakening? And I said, it makes complete sense because at its core it's a story about the perils of miscommunication. And we sat and sort of hashed it out and decided what characters would be deaf, who would be hearing, and how we would tell this story. And it was really important to me to try to, for the first time in a Deaf West musical, have actually deaf characters and hearing characters and be able to begin to start a conversation about that. So we did a workshop, and then that went really well, and then we raised money on Kickstarter and did a small production in a 99-seat theater, which both of you came to see.
I want you to describe Camryn and Marlee. Why is it so special, Camryn?
When I've seen it before or I've listened to the music, I feel that it's the children's point of views of the adults, and the adults are oppressive and strict, and it's their understanding of how the parents have done them wrong. Including sign language into what we have to say and do, it requires your full attention of your body, of your emotional capacity. Signs don't really exist without facial expression and without the emotion behind it. It has added another dimension and also has made the adult figures not so evil in my book, and it's given them a life beyond what's on the page, because the signing adds so much more.
Sign language is a much more visual language, so people who have not really had the opportunity to see signing while just sitting in the theater, not having to talk to them, but watch them and hear the interpretation and see the hands move, it comes across much more vividly. And I mean, deaf or American Sign Language, people find it fascinating because it's using your hands, being able to express yourself with your face, expressing yourself with your body. But you also have to incorporate the knowledge of deaf culture, and that's what this has done so well. It really is one of the biggest reasons why I'm in this show, in this production, to be able to use my culture, to express my culture, while at the same time telling a wonderful story that's in Spring Awakening.
And the addition of sign language adds so much humor, which is something you don't expect. It's a dark play about dark matters, but it's hilarious throughout, and the signing really adds to the comedy of it. Sign language is graphic. They say it like it is with their hands, and many hearing people can understand what we're doing, and it adds a second layer for them for understanding it.
Now, as a hearing person, I have to put this question, you're not hearing the music. And so as a hearing person...
I can hear the music because I wear hearing aids. Don't tell anybody that I wear hearing aids. I can hear the music with my hearing aids, but without them, I'm completely deaf. I'm profoundly deaf without my hearing aids, which is why I sleep so well, because I take them off at night.
Believe me, she can hear, because she can tell me when I've spoken ahead of her, which she did last night. You spoke ahead of me.
Which she did 2 nights ago.
You two are often playing the same part.
I'm signing, and then I went, uh-oh. I try not to pay attention to it because I'm trying to be in my role, but at the same time, and do my job as the actor, as Fanny Gabor, whom I play, to the best of my ability, Michael Arden. Deaf actors have the advantage of being able to use their hands so that they become much more visual on stage. I mean, as it would be for anybody, we act just like hearing people do. I mean, wouldn't you agree? We're just like other actors who are hearing.
Absolutely.
But people think, oh, well, you sign, okay, you're acting, I guess, because you're using your hands. And we do what other actors do who are hearing. Whatever kind of actor you are, we do the same thing.
Since you are often playing the same character, did you have to work together to develop a unified way of presenting these characters? And also, particularly you, Camryn, did you have to adjust the sign language that you already knew to a style that would fit with the way Marlee performs?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
There's several questions there. When Marlee is doing her scenes, it's Marlee's performance. And I am trying to be as truthful and follow her tone and her intention as closely as I possibly can. And Michael has been really helpful with that. I just got a couple of notes last night saying, Marlee's doing this, you need to follow it. Sometimes I can't, where I'm placed on stage, I can't always see exactly what's happening. So we've worked in rehearsal, and we continue to rehearse in our dressing room, backstage, to always try to improve it. Almost every night we're going, let's do the letter.
You would do me wrong, Herr Stiefel, to read into my refusal any lack of affection. On the contrary, as Melchior's mother, I truly believe it my duty to curb this momentary loss.
A lot of times, if I say to Camryn, I prefer how I want my particular character to sound, because I use my hands to make sounds for people who read sign language, if you want to put it in that way. For Camryn, sometimes I'll speak it with her, just to her, so that I can give her an idea of how I would like it to sound. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then on another note, which you were asking me about my knowledge of sign language and acting it, and does it change anything? It's complicated because I know sign language, I know what I'm signing isn't exactly what I'm saying. Because this was written it was originally written a long time ago, the book, and they have followed an older, more proper way of talking. And what we're signing isn't exactly that, because there aren't always older, more proper signs to go along with the older, more proper words. So there's a more contemporary sign language, and I know what those words are, and I'm actually saying something else. So it's a big conflict in my brain.
It's important to note that ASL is not a literal word-for-word translation of English. I mean, they're two separate languages.
Right.
And ASL is also American Sign Language, so it is derived from American culture.
Well,
which makes it a bit complicated at times for someone like Camryn, too. She might be signing, you make me crazy, but the line is, you will drive me mad. And so even just because driving, drive means a different thing in sign language, obviously. So it requires a lot. As someone who has acted in Deaf West productions before, it's almost better to know less, because you're sort of doing two things at once, and it can start to become a little confusing.
When she's signing, I know exactly what she's signing. I have the word, condemnation, and she's signing punishment. And that is what that sign means to me. So I'm watching her, and I'm like, condemnation.
In any case.
And this is like, doesn't matter. This is, for me, this is what this sign means. Doesn't matter. But my words are, in any case. I assure you. And her signs are, it doesn't matter, I promise.
I would say in your letter, your letter bothered me, the sign for bother, but she has to say disturb.
And I asked her, because she sometimes mouths, and she'll go, your letter bothered me. And I'm like, could you please say disturbed when you sign it? Because I'm
She's
following
right.
you.
Camryn's absolutely right.
And it's impossible.
Because I have to try to keep my mouth shut so that I don't want to throw her off. There's a lot of people in the audience are sitting there trying to read my lips. What is she really saying? Or it's not matching what Camryn is saying.
What I want to say, and you can even speak to this because you saw it, as a hearing person who knew nothing about sign language, doesn't it feel like you get double the information as opposed to not understanding what's happening?
Not only that, but as is often the case when I watch a musical and I want to get up and dance because they're so beautiful dancing, and I am not a dancer, I immediately wanted to leap up and do sign language because it's so rich. But of course I can't. Except for one phrase that I now know and will use in my family.
But when they're applauding, then you realize that you're going to do this, and yes.
It's very visual for a deaf actor to see somebody applauding like that. I like both. I like both the hand clap that I can hear and the visual clap.
Well, imagine if you're deaf on the stage and people have their hands in their laps clapping and there's seats in front of them. Yeah. They don't even know that you're appreciating it.
Yeah. So we only have a minute left because we're going to bring in some young members of your cast to fill out the show. But this play was from 1890, and there's a note in the program that says how the deaf were very oppressed at that period.
In the 1880s, something occurred called the Milan Conference, which was a meeting of deaf educators from all over the world. And it was decided that the only way to educate deaf students was through oralism, lip reading, forced speech, things like that. And so because of that, sign language was banned for many years thereafter. And so a lot of kids were forced to speak, which is what we're trying to show in this production.
You have the scene where the teacher is trying to teach the student by having him hold his hand to his voice box, I guess.
Throat and mouth, and to watch the lip movement. And so we're trying to tell that story, which so many people don't know. I mean, before I approached this material, I didn't know the Milan Conference had ever occurred. And it was really a dark age that we're still feeling the repercussion of in deaf culture. Hopefully we're able to provide a context in which this sort of comment can take place.
You do. So we're going to bring in Daniel and Alex, who play this student, and we're going to thank you both very much. Camryn Manheim, Marlee Matlin, such a pleasure to meet you both, really.
Thank you.
Moritz, stay up! I need hardly remind you that of all our pupils, you are in no position to be taking liberties. I will not warn you again!
God, I dreamed there was an angel who could hear me through the wall as I cried out like in Latin. This is so not life at all. Help me out of this nightmare. Then I heard her silver call. She said, just give it time, kid. I come to one and all.
So Jesse and I are back, and we're now with two of the youths who are giving stunning performances, or really a performance together in Spring Awakening. We have Daniel Durant, who plays the tormented Moritz in Spring Awakening, and we have Alex Boniello, who also plays the tormented Moritz in Spring Awakening. We also have Michael Arden, who stayed over, the director and the conceiver of the production, and Marlee Matlin's interpreter, Jack Jason, has stayed over very kindly to interpret for Daniel Durant. I saw you guys in the show, and I wanted to meet you. It's a beautiful performance. But this is the question. And I'm really asking you, Michael, how do you construct this singular, brilliant performance with these two wonderful actors?
Well, I think you start with two wonderful actors. And there's a lot of conversation about who the character is. And we work closely with a group we call the ASL team, who does the translation from English to American Sign Language. And so that's given to Daniel, and Alex begins to match the voice to English with that, and they begin to develop this character together, sometimes conferring with each other, sometimes resisting each other and battling against each other. And for each pairing of deaf and hearing actor creating one character, sort of wanted to give a reason that they each exist. And in my mind, Moritz, this is his shadow, his sort of alter ego, this sort of rock star that he wishes he can be and that will ultimately lead to his demise.
Let me add to the mix this question, Daniel and Alex. Do you think of yourselves as playing one character or two characters, that are different enough that they're each your own, or are you each trying to contribute to one conception of a character?
I actually conceive ourselves as one character together. But naturally, we have different sides to each other because he's the speaking voice, I'm the signing, acting voice. But no, he is really part of me in one. And we work together in terms of energy. Whatever I do in terms of expressing myself, he follows along with the music. And we're essentially together as one.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, any differences that come along, I think, come naturally and from the character's arc, right? So there's, the path that he goes on is something that I think if you think a lot about it, anyone who's dealing with that is going to have a voice inside of their head that's kind of constantly present, and in our case, helps lead him to that eventual choice that he makes.
So quickly tell us, both of you, what is Moritz's problem?
Well, Moritz, I really don't have, as Moritz, a good relationship with my parents. Moritz, their parents want him to be perfect in school. And I struggle because I have these constant thoughts that are haunting me, thinking about the fact that something might be wrong with me because there's this dark world that exists in my mind. So that's the struggle I face as Moritz.
Also, the character now is a deaf child. So it's not like he's deaf for the sake of this production, like in some sort of Daniel the actor is deaf, yes, but now Moritz is deaf, which only contributes to this difficulty that he's facing in a school that doesn't want to help him or meet him in the middle so that he can learn properly. So, on top of everything he's dealing with, he's also dealing with a society that literally and figuratively won't listen to him. And he can't. How can you succeed if you're not given the chance?
It's so interesting that none of the script of Spring Awakening, at least from the musical, I don't know how much that coincides with that from the 19th century play, was changed. That it perfectly adapts itself to Moritz, this abused boy, being deaf.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's sort of almost scary how well it works. And that isn't me. I think that's just a stroke of luck. And the fact that, as we were talking before in the segment before about the Milan Conference and these kids who couldn't succeed with the oral system were called failures, oral failures, which is the exact word in Stephen Sater's text that sends Moritz toward his destiny. I don't want to give too much away, but and so it's important to remember that this is a kid who is bereft of language.
Did you ever feel that in your life, Daniel? Bereft of language?
No.
Okay.
But as somebody who was fortunate to have a family who was supportive of my first language, which was American Sign Language, I felt very fortunate. But I have had many friends, deaf friends, who unfortunately have been in that situation. And it still happens today. There are a lot of deaf people who don't have that opportunity to express themselves. And it still happens. It still does.
I was thinking when you were talking about how perfectly the show supported this new interpretation in a way that made it seem almost as if it intended it somehow, which was impossible. But on the other hand, it's a very difficult technical set of problems for you as a director, for the choreographer, and especially, I would think, for the performers. It's a musical, and there's a lot of things that have to happen on the beat.
Well, fine, not like it's even worth the time, but still you wanted more. Sorry, it won't change, been there before.
And in certain ways, or else the whole thing falls apart. There could be even danger involved, I presume, if people were not in the right place at exactly the right moment. So I assume that aside from developing the characters and helping them to develop the characters, a lot of time was spent on just getting the thing to work.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about some of what those things are, either from an acting or directing point of view?
It's technically the show. There's a show behind the show going on that I think people would really marvel at seeing. I mean, an intricate system of cueing that happens for both deaf and hearing actors. But, you know, because we want everything to match up with the music. Because not only do we want it to seem like it goes with the music for the hearing audience, we want to provide a sense of what that music might look like visually for the deaf audience. And so, for instance, cues are given by taps on the back in a rhythm, and you might get 3 taps and then begin to sign in that rhythm. There are cue lights both on the rail in front of the house and off stage for entrances. Props are picked up at certain points. So if, for instance, I might pick up this coffee cup so that Daniel knows to start signing, and it's really the companies working together harder than you would ever hopefully see from the audience vantage point.
Is this many times more complicated to perform than other work you've done?
Yeah, for me it has. It's been extremely complex being in this show, for sure. Because, I mean, I'm deaf, and I don't hear music. I can feel vibrations at times, but I focus completely on my character, and I tell the story. And I don't use vibrations as a means to develop the character. But it's been great that Michael and Spencer Liff have worked together in making this. I mean, I feel, being that this is my first experience, it's really worked, and it's just amazing and cool, and I absolutely love it. And now I have this sort of set of experiences in my head. Now I could go on and do it another time, because I've had this experience of this play.
This is the second musical I'm aware of that's been done on Broadway with a partially or with a cast that has some or all deaf members. But is there a lot of opportunity for deaf actors to perform in musicals?
Well, I would imagine there would be, yes. I mean, what we're doing now with Spring Awakening shows that it works. And so hopefully then that will impact audiences and people who are in the creative fields to say, look, I mean, we even have somebody in a wheelchair for the first time on Broadway. So you can do it. It can be done. Let's do it again.
And I have to say, speaking as a former casting director, when I looked at Daniel, and I thought, how could you develop a role for this guy? You could put him in this. You could put him in that. In other words, he's such a good actor and so expressive that you want to create opportunities for him. Not to be nice to him, but because he's a terrific actor. Now, how do you experience this in counter to the
we don't want to develop roles for you, apparently.
Yes.
No, that's
I think
fine.
you're going to be fine.
I
think you're going to be fine.
With everything that we have done together, you know, I'm feeling very confident that anything after this will be kind of a cakewalk. I mean, just because, honestly, I mean, the work that the two of us had to do because, you know, so now there have been 3 productions of this show at this point, right?
Yes.
There was the 99 seat in Los Angeles.
And were you there then?
I was
you
not.
You were not.
I was not.
But you were there, Daniel.
He was.
Yeah.
Daniel's actually the only member of the company who has been involved since the first workshop. He played a different role.
Well, I see why.
Yeah, it's incredible. Sorry.
No, yes. So, so then after the 99 seat, we moved to the Wallace in Beverly Hills, and that's where I got involved, kind of by a stroke of magic. I have no other word for it. The role became available, and people asked around, and Michael's fiance Andy actually reached out to me. He was like, "Hey, are you available?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then the next day, I got a request for a Skype call to meet Michael and just sing for him for a second. And then I was on a plane 3 days later. So because of that, you know, I had never met a deaf person before, and I go to the first rehearsal, and I meet Daniel, and I'm realizing, oh my goodness, I have no way at all to communicate with him, and that did a few things for me, and I'm really happy that it happened in that order because it gave me a very, you know, a minimal experience of what it must be like every day for you know, a deaf person who's just going about without, you know, if someone's not willing to sign with them or something like that. So that was step 1. But then step 2 was Daniel was so helpful with me, and he would whip out his phone and would like text me and just show me things. And then, you know, that led to us sitting down with a script, and every single line, like he showed me every single line that had already been translated. And then I had to learn, okay, like if I see him do this, that means again. And, you know, that may not necessarily mean that I'm saying the word again, but I have to know that I have to be on this line at that point to make it make sense. And the two of us, it's kind of, I don't want to like jinx anything, but what we have been able to do is kind of crazy to me, and I'm very proud of both of us.
It's
and
quite
the work we
remarkable.
do. Thank you.
Since there's so much communication going on between groups that can sometimes have difficulty communicating, I wonder if there was a lot of effort put in rehearsal to making sure everyone could actually communicate with each other.
We had to develop a sort of language set for the rehearsal room, and we had, luckily, an incredible set of interpreters with us throughout the entire process, Jack being one of them.
Well, unfortunately, we're just so out of time, but I want to thank you all for coming. Michael Arden, Alec Boniello, am I saying it right?
Yes.
Daniel and Durant for SAG, but Daniel, Durant, wonderful. Don't miss Spring Awakening. Jesse, such a pleasure.
Thank you, Susan.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
It's the bitch of living. It's the bitch of living. And living in your head. It's the bitch of living. And sensing God is dead. God is this it. This can't be it. Oh God, what a bitch.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Dinelli Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you.